Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. It is my honor to be talking with my good friend who I've known for way too long. We actually went to Stanford together. And I remember when she first was telling me about wanting to do Baobab, and I'm like, are you crazy? Don't do it. But she's been doing it now for 3 years, and honestly, one of the most successful VR storytelling companies around the world, winning crazy accolades, some of the most viewed, most watched VR storytelling content. I think we have a sizzle reel demo clip to introduce them. Can we show that? Okay. If not, I will pantomime and act it out. No. But yeah, okay, why don't we just get started? I don't want to, and once that's ready, you can watch it. But Maureen, I actually wrote down these questions because I didn't want to mess it up. Now I have to go back and find it. But honestly, congratulations on all your success. It's been incredible to see. I think the latest news was coming out of Cannes now with Crow the Legend. It's a huge reception. Part 1 was shown. It has a stellar all-star cast of some amazing actors and actresses, John Legend, Constant Wu, but the most amazing, impressive one is no doubt Oprah Winfrey. How did you get Oprah to star in a VR animation, and what was it like to work with her?
Oprah is amazing, just as John Legend, who just had a baby. Congratulations to him. We just went down the list in terms of who is our wish list of stars, and the piece is very much about selflessness, that anybody can change the world with courage, especially in these dark times. We thought that was an important message to get across, and we wanted a diverse cast. So we have Constance Wu, Diego Luna, Ty Sheridan from Ready Player One. We also have Liza Koshy, who's from Freakish and the top YouTuber. Also 2 Native American visionaries in their field. So one is Randy Edmonds, he's our narrator, and he is a well-respected tribal elder who had to flee during the Oklahoma Relocation Acts and set up a lot of unemployment charities specifically to help Native Americans find work again, as well as Sarah Eagleheart, who we partnered with, who is a CEO, incredibly inspiring, and she has the best name ever, Sarah Eagleheart. She's the CEO of Native Americans in Philanthropy. And when Obama was in office, he actually chose her organization to be the one that they helped for indigenous filmmaking and shining a light on indigenous voices and getting people behind the camera, in front of the camera, that are not just typical white dudes. Not that there's anything wrong with white dudes. Sorry, we have Ty Sheridan. And then also Oprah. And so for Oprah, we wanted somebody who we felt really believed in the themes that we were trying to talk about in the piece itself. And we wanted somebody who was passionate about virtual reality and AR and storytelling in general. And if you see Oprah, she oftentimes says that she started a talk show because she wanted to help everybody see all the struggles that people in the world could have and how they overcame them. And if you could get insight into how these people overcame, then you realize that you could overcome anything. And she'd bring people on her talk show to show them, for them to share their stories, so you can get a window into that. Then she went into network, creating OWN and actually acting and being in television shows and also movies, because she's like, not only now can you hear about the stories, you can actually see it. But what excites her about VR AR is she's like, instead of just seeing it and telling it, now you can actually experience it and be part of it. So we were really excited to work with her because she really understands the power of the medium, and she was attracted to this piece not just because of the cool technology, not a tech demo, it's because of the specific themes that she wants to show people, which is that we're all connected and that anybody can make a difference, and we're much more similar than we think across different cultures.
Amazing. And so, looking at Crow the Legend, it is visually and even thematically very different from your other works that you've done before with Invasion and Asteroids. I kind of want to talk about, what brought you to Crow, or what's the journey, or how do you think about content and storytelling in that way of these projects?
Truth is, we wanted to do Crow from the very beginning. So Eric Eric Darnell, my co-founder, he's our chief creative officer. He directed and wrote all 4 Madagascar films as well as Ants. So he's a great, amazing creative, and he's always coming up with ideas. So within the first few weeks of us starting our company, he already created 13 different scripts. Some of them he just had in his head previously. So it's not lack of different options, and Crow was the one that I was most excited about, specifically because of the themes. It's so beautiful. It's the origin story of the crow and how the crow used to have gorgeous rainbow feathers and a beautiful singing voice, John Legend, and how he loses it all, like the feathers turn black because he flies into the sun to bring fire back.
Spoiler alert.
Yes, it's all about execution. Bringing fire back to the earth to save the animals and make it warm again, but in the process, burns all his feathers black, and the smoke makes his voice the way it is today. So again, it's a story about sacrifice. And but it was, to be honest, too ambitious, because anyone who knows anything about animation knows it's about the number of characters. Each character is really expensive. Number of sets, how many different locations you have. And we didn't even know if we could make VR. We were just like, we should experiment and see if we're even good at this thing. So we decided on something smaller that still had a really good story. So we started with Invasion because there are only 2 characters, because if you create one alien, you could just duplicate it and make it a little longer. So it's only 2 characters, 1 location on a lake, and it could be done in a short period of time. And back then we didn't have controllers either, and controllers and interactivity are really important to Crow.
Excellent, excellent. So walk before you run. Very smart startup advice. And so speaking of Invasion and its follow-up, like they both won Emmys. That's huge. That's like world's first, right? Not only the first Emmy, but back-to-back Emmys for VR content and storytelling. That's amazing. Everyone give her a round of applause. Come on, that's badass. So how did it feel to win the Emmys, especially the second time when you were on stage having your Ali Wong moment?
Yes. Eric made this joke because they had this sweet reception right before where I had a lot of coconut shrimp, and then he's like, "Oh, it looks like you had too many coconut shrimp." Like, no, I'm just having. Have you guys all watched Ali Wong, by the way? If you haven't, you all need to watch. Really scares me about labor, but now I'm prepared. She's amazing. It was amazing because I didn't. You want to be cool and like, I don't care. But then right before, I was like really nervous. Like, I hope I win. So it was amazing. But we got to both present and accept the award. The funny thing is, Eric went the year before because I was speaking at Tribeca Film Festival, because there's a overlap, and they had him present, but they told him that he was presenting his own category, which is not true. And he's like, that's awkward. And then, so afterwards, he went to go drink because he thought he hadn't won. So by the time they called him up, he was not there. And so Kane had to run up. So this year, he's like, I'm going to be there. But it was such an honor to be recognized by the Academy, because I believe that's right now, out of all the awards that are out there, the highest prestige, whatever award that you can get out there. So it really meant a lot to us, but also a lot to the team to be rewarded for their work, because, we're a startup, so they're working crazy hours trying to get this out, and it's a new medium, so you don't really know what success is. You don't know if you're doing a good job until you show it to people. And so for people to actually think that it's good is just really great, because there are not that many consumer metrics out there right now, because there are fewer headsets, so it's harder to measure the success. So you can measure it through awards and at least from your peers. So if they say that it's really good, it's really validating for us.
Awesome. Well, it is very, very good. So speaking of Tribeca, Jack was the big talk at Tribeca. And for those that you don't know, it was very innovative because it used a live actor in VR with you, right? So can you tell us a little bit about that project? What led you to do something so unique?
Well, one, we were really excited by Matthias, the new director from France, and you go where the talent is. So we just loved Matthias and wanted to work with him. But it was really exciting to watch Alice, right? Because there's all this talk about artificial intelligence right now, and I'm really excited. Actually, I'm scared of my AI overlords. If any of you have watched Silicon Valley recently. But I think it's still quite a while, right, until AI can really mimic humans, and putting a human in there, some people thought it was AI instead of human. Like, yeah, you believe that, that's fine. But the awesome thing is the actor can completely change to and react based off of what you do. For example, there's this part where this traveling salesman offers you a magic bean, because it's based off of Jack and the Beanstalk, offers you a magic bean in return for your mom's prized radio. And some people just hand it over right away. Other people try to hold it and won't give it to you. Some people try to negotiate, but because we have a real actress there, she can actually change exactly what she says. So sometimes she just like steals it from you. Other times she negotiates with you. So every person gets a customized, personalized experience, and bringing that human element in is important, because at least we believe that AR and VR are the next evolution of humans. It's my big statement. Because when you're watching something traditional, passive, or even playing a game, you're wondering what you're role playing, right? You're wondering what you would do in that scenario. And it's part of our DNA. Storytelling is literally part of DNA. Have any of you guys read the book Sapiens? Wow, that's amazing. They think that Homo sapiens, right, evolved and beat out survival of the fittest. We beat out all the other animals or species because of our ability to tell rumors, which is storytelling, right? Like, don't go in that bush over there, there's a lion. And it's the way that people told people stories of other people, like what would I do if I were in that situation? But in VR AR, you no longer have to wonder what you would do. You actually believe you're in that scenario. You actually have to act, right? Jeremy Bailenson has all that amazing research from Stanford about how if you look at the mirror and you see that you're a black woman, and when you take off the headset, you actually act differently. Or if you role play that of a homeless person, when you take off, you're much more likely to donate, you're acting in a different way. So it gets you to empathize with these characters in a way you wouldn't in traditional media. And it's not just about empathy, it's about actually being that person and playing that role. I don't remember what the original question is. I just want to tangent.
You covered a lot of things.
But
That's good.
Evolution,
Good.
Yes. Evolution of storytelling.
Well, okay.
It's important.
So there are a lot of other founders out here, and I want to talk a little bit about what it was like to be a founder. You're a first-time founder. You know, you've been doing this now for 3 years. If you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself when you were starting out?
Well, I would have warned me first.
I tried that. I tried to warn you.
What? It's like, if you have anxiety, it's going to be ratcheted up a ton. No, it's great for preparation for having kids, I think, but I don't know yet because it hasn't come out yet, because there's so much stuff that happens that you realize that you just need to chill out because you have no control. And I hear that's what having kids is like. I think it was really helpful to have so many entrepreneur friends around me. I think do you know a lot of entrepreneurs have depression? It's a thing that people don't talk about because you're lonely and people can't really understand necessarily what you're going through. People think entrepreneurs are rich. You're not. You're really poor because you're thinking about, oh, do I want to pay myself another $10,000, or I could hire another person with so you pay yourself as little as possible. And then people are like, oh, Silicon Valley's shiny, and so they don't necessarily understand. So when you have other startup founders around you that you can call up whenever you're in your deepest, darkest place, and then they tell you about their sad story, then you're like, oh, my life's not as bad as yours. You feel totally better. But no,
Nice.
It's totally helpful. No, I'm kidding. It's kind of. But you have a support network where you can talk to each other and help. But that's where co-founders really help as well, because they're in the trenches with you. Because sometimes when you're talking to your team, you can't be like, I don't know what I'm doing, to act confident. So with your co-founders, you can also, I call Tipatat a lot in my dark depths of despair.
Your hidden stealth co-founder.
Yes. Tip isn't even my VC, but he does even more for us than other VCs. So you should all take money specifically from Tipatat. Yeah. The other advice is to continue to hoard the money. Okay, hoard the money.
Hoard the money.
So in business school, I learned in my entrepreneurship class. So I don't remember anything I learned in business school except maybe this thing, which is if you start your own company, don't use your own money ever and just have a lot of cash in the bank. People thought I was crazy when I raised the 25 million in my Series B so soon after your Series A, because usually you're supposed to only raise enough for about a year and a half because you're going to make a lot of progress and your valuation will be higher and then you could go out and more. But I just saw, the hype cycle thing happening. So we were like, I'm just going to raise while it's still hot out there. I'm going to raise a ton of money and just hoard it and sit on it. And instead of scaling, like a lot of companies did, we just didn't scale up because we just knew that it would take a while. So that was the advice that I gave other people, and people just thought I was crazy. So don't, in a way, you listen to your other entrepreneur friends, but also don't listen, which most likely you guys do, because if you are an entrepreneur, it's like a crazy thing to do, right? So you already don't do what normal people do already. Exercise is extremely important. It helps deal with the anxiety. I wasn't exercising a lot, but I have gestational diabetes now, so I'm forced to, and I'm realizing it's so good for my company when I do that. I do walking one-on-ones for meetings and make sure you eat. And in terms of investors, right, advisors for me were just as important as investors. So I have my board members who are super helpful, but my advisors are really great at very specific areas. Like some are good at animation, some technology, some fundraising. So it's almost like having my personal board of directors that help me through life, whether it's for my company or not. And I could call upon them at any moment to ask for advice. So I never feel completely alone, and that's all been very helpful.
Awesome. I think you covered a lot of this, but specifically as a first-time founder, I think it's different than people that have done multiple startups. Like, as a first-time founder, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
I hated fundraising. There are some entrepreneurs who love fundraising, and I think they're bad people because who likes it? But you have to go out and ask people for money. Don't like that, right? So I learned there's this whole game that you play, right, when you fundraise. Have you guys watched, Silicon Valley episode, I think 1, the cockier you are? My life is exactly like that show. I didn't realize. But you go up and the cockier you are, the more they respond to you. And there's some female-male things you have to do too. So somebody told me, go in and ask around lunchtime and ask for some crazy cereal that you know that they won't have, so that they'll then send their assistant out to get it for you. And then they'll be like, oh my gosh, it's what she wants. And she's so demanding, such a leader. Yeah, but I didn't do that.
That's
I
insane.
didn't do that. But the best way to think about it is to think about yourself like you're the hot chick, right? This is like a sexist thing to say, but if you think, let's say if I were a really hot chick, which I am, and but if I were to suddenly be single for a week, how long am I going to be single for? Not very long, because I know my worth, because I'm so amazing, right? So if I act out there like I'm so amazing and my company's so amazing, then they sense that confidence and then they get scared because they think, oh my God, somebody else is going to get to her if I don't get to her first. And so you create this FOMO thing. So I wouldn't normally know how to do that. So my entrepreneur friends all told me how to be in those meetings. And that really helped, showing that confidence, because people want to follow confident leaders. And in fact, there's a study that was in the Atlantic that showed if you are really confident, even if you're stupid, if you just act confident, people think that you're more leader-like than if you're super smart and don't act very confident. And this is unfortunate somewhat for women, because we are perceived to be less confident, so you almost have to overcompensate. Also, there's research that shows that the less attractive you are as a female, or if you wear a ring, your chances of getting funded are even higher, because they don't actually say why, but I'm just hypothesizing it takes the attractiveness factor off the table so people can evaluate you straight for just the what you're pitching. So I didn't, at the time I was single, and I was thinking about wearing a ring and dressing really crappy, but I didn't do that because I thought I should just be myself. And my attitude in general with fundraising was, this is who I am, and if you don't like it, then I don't want your money. And that confidence really helped, I believe, get people to want to give me money. But, first-time founders, you go and if somebody shows any interest, you're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And instead you have to be thinking, oh my gosh, like you should be so honored that I would even consider letting you give me money. And then if you have that attitude, things go a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the biggest challenges for a startup is hiring. What's the key to building a great team?
A players bring in A players and B players bring in C players. So that's my philosophy. You pretty much know, this is my belief, Chris, that you know pretty quickly if you hire someone in and they're not right, and you have to be ready to just let them go quickly. I also believe in a team as not a family, but as a sports team. So you don't fire your brother, you don't fire your siblings, but you're a high performance team. So there's a balance between business and also on the cultural side. I think for us, a lot of it was through our own internal network. So making sure for the 3 co-founders, we have our head technical, head creative, and then for me on the business side, we all have deep networks into our respective disciplines. So being able to reach into those networks and hire. And then it's just like pitching your VCs. It's about being confident and selling the vision. It's not all the details. Some people want the details, but people buy into a startup because they believe in where it's going to go, not necessarily the nitty-gritty. The nitty-gritty is about how you're going to survive and not die and not run out of money, but really they're buying into the mission of the company, so you just want to be really strong with the mission.
At Baobab Studios, we're focused on doing immersive storytelling in virtual reality with characters that audiences can fall in love with. I had been working for over 20 years directing feature animated films as a director on Ants and a writer and director on all the Madagascar films, and put on a VR headset for the first time. It blew me away. It's like this undiscovered frontier.
We see virtual reality as a new medium for telling stories and creating great cinematic experiences that are character-driven. It allows people to be taken to places and to worlds that otherwise wouldn't exist.
When audiences saw Invasion, they reacted to the world and the characters in ways that we never imagined. And that interactivity and that connection and that eye contact was really significant, and we realized we were really onto something. So then when hand controllers came out, we started our next piece, Asteroids, determined to make the viewer a character inside this story that had hands that could actually interact with the world around them.
Our next piece started off as a Native American folktale that was spread through word, and we are turning it next into a VR animation to take the story to the next level.
Another way we look at what we're doing at Baobab Studios is to take advantage of what we already know about the empathy of filmmaking and cinema and the interactivity of games and the motivation to act that we have in real life when things really matter and we really care. And so when we have all those pieces of the puzzle working together, then we have an experience that's unlike an experience you could have in any other medium.